I'm Megan Skidmore, and welcome to the Beyond the Shadow of Doubt. I'm a woman, daughter, sister, spouse, mother, life coach, and person of faith on a mission to normalize asking questions and allowing doubts on a faith journey and all aspects of life. Join me as I bring this traditionally taboo topic out of the shadows of shame and into the light. I firmly believe we normalize through more talking and engaging in discussion. More talking peels back, exposes, and erases the layers of shame associated with asking questions and allowing doubts. When we are more authentic about our journey, we are more powerful because shame has no power in the face of authenticity. For the month, I'm offering a pay what you can session, which is a regular coaching session with different options to pay what you can and get a full coaching experience. I would love to help you process through anything that might be on your mind or on your heart. First Friday's free coaching, a confidential group to bring all the questions, vent frustrations, share fears, express doubts. Navigating a new and uncertain reality is hard enough. Let's remove the worry of judgment from others. In this group, I will help you help yourself so that you can be there for your child, family, loved ones, and for you too. Click the link in the show notes to sign up. You must complete the agreement.
So our podcast is obviously all about interfaith and different faiths and different spiritual beliefs, different faith beliefs, just different perspectives and ideas. And so I wonder within dynamics of like family members and communities and just different beliefs in anything, whether it be gender, sexuality, spirituality, how do you handle that in your space?
Yeah, good question. To start with, I think it's really important to kind of lay the foundation. A relationship can be between two individuals. It can be between an individual and a group or two groups, right? It can be between an individual and an institution or an organization, right? Mm-hmm. All of those constitute relationships. When you're talking about people having differing viewpoints and thoughts about any given subject, we'll use gender and sexuality, I guess. I like to come back to sharing stories. In a healthy, ideally in a healthy relationship, you don't want to argue with somebody or tell them they're not experiencing what they just told you that they experienced firsthand, that they felt for themselves, that they saw, they witnessed. There's some elements of that the LDS faith is based on, interestingly enough. In a healthy dynamic, you just listen. If you want to take it a step up, you try to learn something that maybe you didn't know before. You don't negate what somebody's truth is. I think sometimes we get hung up on that word truth. A way to use the word truth is, you've both talked about this core, your inner knowing, your integrity, your inner wisdom, that voice. That's what speaks to you. And it's going to tell you things that it may not tell others simply because you're different. And so are your life circumstances. So is everything around you. It's not going to be the same. It just doesn't work that way in my experience. And so listening and learning, and not listening in order to debate or come up with some type of, some type of response, or rebuttal. It's just you're hearing someone's heart. Again, going back to you're on sacred ground when they're sharing with you. And you don't have to agree, but you also don't have to tell them that you don't agree or that you don't see it that way. You don't. But I think sometimes there's a little bit of that threaded through conservative faith communities that is tied in with this idea of bearing your testimony or knowing things with certainty. knowing things beyond the shadow of a doubt or with every fiber of your being, right? The idea that there are others who experience something very different is a little bit foreign, I think, at times to those of conservative faith backgrounds, LDS or otherwise.
Yeah, for sure. I think it opens like a whole nother world when you're willing to really listen to someone else that really thinks differently than you. And I think for us in our platform, we learn about all of these other churches, and that's become easy. And I have found that it's become harder for me to really hear and to acknowledge and validate people that think differently than me within my own faith, actually. That is tricky. That's the most tricky for me. And I think I'm getting there, but it's a tough one. And one thing that you just sparked this thought that's been surprising to us in learning about other people's faiths and really being there to just truly get to know them and truly understand them, and not to add what we have or not to give them what we have, but to really, to offer whatever they'd like from us. But I feel like we're gaining so much from them and we're learning so much from them. We're not trying to teach them. I just noticed this for the first time, that, and I'm sure it's happened all along, but we went to a Lutheran church just this last Sunday, and we went to their barbecue. They invited us to this barbecue and bouncy houses, and it was a big event after their service. It was amazing. And this warmest congregation, we spoke to them the week before to tell them what we were doing. We're videoing the service, and then we're going to interview whoever wants to be interviewed. And so we walked around, interviewed all these people. And I talked with this man after his interview was over, and Ashlie had walked away, and he said, "Thank you so much for coming, just for coming and really wanting to know us, because I had an experience once when I went to an LDS church and it was not a good experience." And he said, "Thank you." Like, it was just an acknowledgement of we kind of helped, I think, reframe the idea that some of these people had about us that was negative. And we weren't trying to do that. We go in without any expectation, but just to love them and learn from them and really know them. And such great things are coming of it. And I think people are so afraid to hear something different and afraid to take in something new that might be opposed to what they believe. But when you do, you actually gain so much, and you create a peace without even realizing you're doing it. I didn't realize that was happening until he said it out loud. And I was like, oh, and then thinking back to quite a few of the people that we met that day, so many of them were like, "Thank you for being here. And you're so nice." And like, I think they were surprised, they were surprised that we cared about them and their congregation and what they were doing in their little piece of the world. Like, I think we think that we are giving so much when we proselyte as members, but we are actually giving so much more, in my opinion, when we just really, truly want to hear them.
I love what you said. I think there's healing to be done among different sects, different faiths. I experienced something kind of similar. I visited in recent months the Community of Christ, what used to be called the RLDS Church.
We've been there.
And the first time that I went, my kiddo did come with me, but afterwards, I love how they flock to you and welcome you and ask your name and where you're from, what brought you there and all of that. And then they ask, if I knew much about them. I mean, I just had to be honest, I'm like, yeah, I do. And I explained that I was, member of the LDS Church, born and raised. But what really has stuck with me from that visit is I was able to talk to these two. I asked them if they were lifelong members, and they were. And one of them could trace her ancestors all the way back to where I could trace mine. And there was something so healing in that moment. She said, "I bet my ancestors knew your ancestors." And I said, "I bet they do." And I bet they're really happy about this meeting right now. We forget how much more alike than different we are. And I just share that to emphasize this power, this experience you have with the Lutheran Church. I think we underestimate this power behind loving. Love is a power. It's an energy. It connects us. It moves us. It heals us.
Yes. Well, absolutely. Well, to quote Les Mis, because I am obsessed, to love another person is to see the face of God. And I love that quote. And there's so many different faces of God.
Yes,
God is the opposite political party than you, or the other religion than you, or the other skin color. And one of my favorite things that we heard on our journey with visiting other churches is the rabbi at the Jewish synagogue told us. We were talking about Judaism, and I had no idea how Judaism and Islam were so closely connected. No clue before that. But he said, we are cousins. That's how he phrased it. We are cousins. And it hit me so deep. And I just thought, if we could think of other religions like that as just like, my cousins, my cousin is lived in a different household than me, but is it any less value? Is there any less worth in that? And there's so much to gain from each other. And I just love that, especially with everything happening right now in the Middle East. It really hit me like, wow, we are cousins.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that so much. So I would love if you both could share, how has this faith journey you've been on, learning to give yourself permission to have these questions and then leaning into them, diving into it, and feeding this curiosity, I guess. How has that helped you in cultivating your relationship with the divine? I would love to know your thoughts about that.
So I have a long thought. I'll try to say it quickly.
This is all you.
So I was asked to speak at a retreat, and during the retreat, to prepare for my speech, I asked all of the people that I knew what their relationship was with God, like everyone I knew. And it was, some people were atheist and I just rephrased it. I think I said, what is your relationship with, or what are your thoughts about the universe or divine power, or whatever it is for you? And it was so amazing to hear the responses from people, because these are people that I know very, very, very well. And I talk to some of them every single day, but I never asked that particular question. And so it was really great to connect with them on such a deeper level, and get a glimpse into what their spirituality looks like. And then I started this process with other faiths, and I thought I knew what my connection with God was. But then as I learned about other faiths and different ways of people how they looked at God, it really made me step back and be like, okay, wait, there's a lot of different viewpoints. There's a lot of different ways to see God, and, an image, a thought, a feeling. Like all of these people, they believe in different gods.
We believe in, yeah.
Yeah. And we have one girl that we interviewed that's atheist, but she believes in different philosophies, and another girl that believes in power within herself, and a witch that believes in a totally different kind of power. And then also more traditional churches as well. And so I really had to kind of step back, and I've always really liked the scripture in 1 John 4:8 that says, he that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. And I took that very literally. And I always have. I've always felt like God is love. But I was talking to Aubrey Chavez, actually, we had her on. Yeah, and I said that to her. And she's amazing. And she said, I thought about what you said, and I think about it a little bit differently now. And it caused me to think about it a little bit differently. And so Anyway, so I've been really wrestling with this idea of who is God to me, and Patrick Mason wrote an essay on his trip to Rwanda. And he talks about the genocide there and how devastating it was. And it was absolutely horrific. And he said he really struggled with the idea of how can God let horrible things happen to good people? And he just, I think we all asked that question at some point, but he thought about it in a different way. And then he met this woman that had been part of this genocide. And there was a group that they formed later on. I'm going to butcher this, so read the essay yourself. But there was a group that formed that said, okay, there's all this devastation, and it was neighbors fighting against neighbors. And Patrick Mason said, how do you do this? How do you forgive? Or how are you working through this? And she said, you really just have to forgive. You have to find it in yourself to forgive. And he said, well, where was God in all of this? And she said, he was right here all along. God died so that he could be here in the in-between of all of the suffering. He suffered so that we could live and so that we could go through these things, and he would be right there with us. And that just hit me so strong. And it really, after I read that, I emailed Patrick Mason and I was like, that was so touching. And I really loved the sentiment and the idea. And it really got me thinking, how do I define God in the words that I use all the time? I always talk about God being love. And so I wrote this to him. I said, recently, I've been on a quest to find out who God really is to me. I have gotten a lot of comfort from thinking of God as love itself. Love isn't allowed to change evil on its own. It inspires very powerful feelings and provokes very powerful actions, but on its own, due to the laws of nature, it cannot vanquish evil without setting in the hearts of men and women and encouraging men and women to take action. I don't believe love or God can force themselves into a person. We have to make the choice to accept them. And I think God has to be love, even in those moments of he can't force evil out. He can't force people to change what they're doing. They're evil, these evil genocide, killing, all of these things. He can't force that to change, but he's the love among it. He's the love in it. Or she, he and she. Yeah. I do believe in a Heavenly Mother as well. And I think that's how I picture God internally in feeling and emotion. And then I think physically, I picture God to be Jesus. I picture God to be like who Jesus was when he was in Nazareth and healing the blind and loving people so unconditionally. If I really take myself there and picture that to be God on earth, so humble, yet so powerful, that's God. And I picture Heavenly Mother in a very specific way also. I picture her to be kindness, like the kindness in someone's eyes when they're really listening to you. And my earthly mother's embrace, I picture her to be that much warmth. And the sun on my face, I picture her in that moment. And then physically, she changes for me. Physically, I feel like she's in a red dress when I need her to be fierce. And then when I need her to be soft, warm, and compassionate, I picture her in blue, like Virgin Mary or Mary Magdalene. I picture her in white when I need her to be exalted, perfect, or angelic. And I picture her in black when I need her to be a badass.
That's fantastic.
That is amazing, Emmy. I got chills.
It's been a really big thing for me.
Beautiful.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I love hearing where people are at and as they're kind of reassessing their beliefs, right? And reclaiming them, I guess, in a way that is more personal, more tailor-made for them. I think that's amazing. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I hope you're enjoying listening to my chat with Emilie and Ashlie as much as I enjoyed recording it. And actually, on Saturday, November 2nd, they will be hosting their first ever That's Church experience, with special guest presenters Dr. Patrick Mason, Pastor Brittany Mangelson, Maisa Kergay, and Onkar Arjamani and Bryn Lewis. This special event will be held at the Compass Gallery in Provo, Utah. And for listeners of Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast, you can use code Megan Skidmore Coaching, all one word, all caps, no spaces, for 50% off your admission ticket. Go to tinyurl.com/that'schurch2024. I hope you will join for an unforgettable evening of dialogue, inspiration, and connection as you hear from a phenomenal group of speakers on how to cultivate interfaith relationships.
I want to ask you one more question.
Yeah.
Before we go, your coaching niche, right, is about life transitions.
Yeah.
And so could you kind of tell us, like, and I think a lot of the people that we interact with and our listeners and your listeners are going through big life transitions, or struggles or deconstruction or whatever they want to call that, or wherever they're at. So what would you say is the most important thing to keep in mind when people are going through life transitions?
So I would say probably one of the most important things to remember is that they are not linear. They're cyclical. They come in waves. And there's not a single way. There's not like a prescribed way to do it right. This is what makes it quite different than maybe what we were taught in our upbringing or the background that we come from, and why learning to connect with that inner voice and then allowing that voice to come up is so important. You don't have to know all of the steps to the path that's going to be in front of you before you take that first step. As a matter of fact, if you're already following a path that exists, someone else built that pathway. That's theirs. The definition of someone who's a trailblazer is someone who makes their path as they go, meaning just that very next step in front of them and lay that cobblestone down. And it's one of those cobblestones at a time. And as you do that, most likely it creates a whole lot of discomfort. And we don't like to feel that. We're not good at tolerating discomfort. And the way our society is, there's so many things that we can use to escape that discomfort. You know, fill in the blanks, whether it's social, whether it's screens, it could be food, it could be other activities, it could be whatever. So to sit with those emotions is a skill. And the cool thing about learning and honing this skill is you may still feel some discomfort or pain or hurt or whatever that might be, but there's less suffering. There's a difference. That resistance, avoidance, all of that just brings so much suffering rather than learning. This is a Buddhist concept. Rather than learning to just feel those emotions. That's why both ends of the spectrum have meaning, right? And so in my signature group work, Unlocking Your Voice, I help address those things. Emotional resilience. I help address those things that help a person to unlock their voice, to feel safe in using it. Emotional resilience, identity work, or in other words, learning to separate yourself from the stories that you've created about your life and your life circumstances, and then determining your core values. And you can experience some powerful shifts and then learn at your pace when to use those keys. Again, going back to, owning that safety that you want to feel and choosing with whom and when and how often and how much that you share during that life transition. Yeah.
So cool. I can just feel like what a difference you're making in so many people's lives with your work and your podcast. Seriously. I listened to the Amy Jensen episode, The Women on the Stand, and it was so powerful. And you really do just create such a warm and welcoming space. Like listening to that before it and just how you are. You just really, speaking of trailblazers, you can tell that you are a trailblazer and have that fire in you in the most compassionate sense, because fire is catching and it just, I don't know, you inspire me. So thanks for having us.
And you're great at letting people be who they are. You're not trying to change who they are. You're allowing people space to be who they are and just share it and feel safe to share that. I mean, we have only talked to you for an hour or so and we feel that so strongly already.
And things about you all, you are creating such needed safe spaces. I am so impressed with the guests that you have on. I see them and I'm like, oh, I want to have them on mine.
I know.
We can
Same. We said
Right?
said the same thing as we went through your list. Like, wow, look
I
at
know.
all these amazing
It's just-
people.
It's kind of like you kind of find your people in these spaces here, and it's really powerful.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I have one last question, well, kind of two, but
Yeah.
that I like to throw out to my guests. And that is, what does it mean to you to live beyond the shadow of doubt?
So I was thinking about this, and because I've heard your episodes, and the word doubt brought up a negative thing for me at first, and I just thought, oh, that's such a bummer that it brought up something negative. But something that a church member said to me that was in a place of authority, when I expressed some of my own doubts, was they quoted, I think it was an Elder Nelson talk. I'm not sure. I can't remember right now, but it was the quote, "Don't rehearse your doubts with other doubters." Okay. And it immediately just like clicked, like, nope, that's wrong. Because it felt, and I'm going to reference a children's movie right now because I am a child inside. But the movie Smallfoot is, I think it's a DreamWorks movie, and it came out a few years ago. It's one of my favorite movies, but it's Bigfoot, but it's called Smallfoot because all of the Yetis believe that the humans are actually the ones to be afraid of. So they call them Smallfoot instead of the other way around, which is Bigfoot. And it's just such a great take on the fear of the unknown, the fear of doubts and not knowing. And one of my favorite quotes, Zendaya's in it, and she sings a song, and one of my favorite lines in it is, "A life that's full of wonder is a wonderful life." And I love it. Similar to what you've been saying, Megan, is that there's so much beauty in the doubts and in the unknown and in the mysteries of it all. And I really I don't need to live my spirituality in a box anymore. And I don't need a list of rules or things that I need to check off, because I enjoy conversations like this. I love talking to people about big, heavy conversations like, what does the afterlife look like to you? Too. And it's so different, right? There's so much, it's so fun. And I think for a lot of people, they're too scared to do that. Yeah. And I would challenge people to not be, because as Emilie mentioned before, when we were talking about learning, you don't have to take what someone says to you when you listen to their beliefs. You don't have to pick that up. You can leave that there. But just hearing different people and how they view the world and their own spirituality is so sacred. And I think what we've all been saying here is that it's so important that it's so unique.
Totally. Yeah. I've talked enough in here, so I'll just be brief. I also thought about what I was going to say, and I called Ash. I'm like, do you have something? Because mine's real short. So I'm glad she did. But I think just simply we find so much security in certainty, and actually we then get stuck, I think. You talked about the stages of faith, and I think it's so important to reach beyond what we think we're actually capable of. And when we doubt, then we can do that. We can scale to a higher place and see things from a different viewpoint. And so I think it's actually so important to question and so important to learn something different, because we can get so stuck. I served a mission, like I said, in LA, and I remember every time we had a transfer, there was so much change, and at first that was so hard for me. But then every time that we had something change, which wasn't just every transfer, it was like every second in a mission, there's so much change, but we found comfort that we would grow from it, because every time we have something and we stretch ourselves, we can grow so much more than we have any idea we are capable of.
That's interesting, because as you've been talking, this has been the most fun and interesting and different interview, because we're kind of interviewing each other. Yeah. And I feel so like, fun. Okay, I should probably I should ask my own self this question. This is a question I've never asked my own self.
Yeah, we'd love to
on
hear
my
it.
podcast. But I think what started out as something full of shame for me, even scary, has turned into the word that keeps coming up is possibilities. Talking about what you were saying just now, Emilie, like a doubt brings up what else? What more is there? What don't I know? And that just means there's just so much out there that what could possibly be out there. That what if is actually something that I really like now. It's expansive. That's what I call my journey. Calling it a faith crisis never really landed for me, so I call it a faith expansion.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking to what you mentioned, Ashlie, about people not wanting to have doubts or questions, they fear it. Something that Bob Proctor said, who is an author and a speaker, he said, faith and fear both demand that you believe in something you cannot see. You choose. And right there, it's like, oh yeah, you're right. Something's going on behind both of those feelings, and I get to choose. We forget that role that we have, I think. Anyway, I'm all about expansion, and just having this conversation, it feels so expansive, so enlightening, so full of love and hope. If you listen to my episodes, you know that I throw out some for funsies questions at the end. And I was thinking I'm just looking for one, maybe 2-word answers. And I was thinking maybe I'll answer them too.
Yeah, for sure. We would love to hear yours too.
Okay, so here they go. What is your favorite book? I'll answer. I don't have a favorite. I like lots of books. I'm the kind that has lots open on my Kindle, or I also like books on paper. But I really do like Brian McLaren's Faith After Doubt. That was really pivotal for me and came at a time when I really, really needed it. I also like anything from Brene Brown.
That's awesome.
What about you guys?
Mine is going to be not very scholarly.
Mine too.
I just was thinking about this today.
But can both
my
have
favorite is very girly and silly and typical, but Pride and Prejudice is really just my all-time favorite. I really love those proper romances, and I haven't read a proper romance or just a fun fictional book in forever. So I'm due.
Those are
What
needed.
about you, Ash? Yeah.
Those are needed. I just watched Little Women and I was like, I needed this. All the dresses and everything. My favorite book is The Little Prince, which is a children's book again, because I'm a child. But it's a very adult kind of children's book. And it was written by a Frenchman. So it's very unique, but it's very much showing the world through a child's eyes. And that really resonates with me.
Okay, so are you an introvert or an extrovert? I am an introvert. I'm kind of right in the middle. It takes work, kind of energy to be extroverted, but that's not how my cup gets filled, right? What about you guys?
I am an extrovert. That's how my cup is filled. But as I get older, it takes more energy, and I am exhausted afterwards. But it really fills my cup. But I can't do it as often. You know what I'm saying? Anyway.
I'm similar too. I'm an extrovert, but I think COVID made me become a little more introverted. And now I'm okay with sitting at home more than I used to be.
I know. Awesome. Are you a night owl or a morning lark? I think once upon a time I was a night owl in my younger years. And, honestly, now my answer is neither. I'm not a night owl or a morning lark.
What would you call yourself? You just like sleeping or
whatever my body needs. That's what I'm going to do.
Oh, I love that answer. I just want to sleep. I tell my husband that all the time. I'm like, can I sleep for 3 days straight? Like, I would love an induced coma or something.
Really? Just wake up super.
Yes, hibernation, yes. But I think I speak for Emmy and I both when I say night owls, because we will text each other at like 2 a.m. and I'll get a response. And I'm like, what's wrong with us? What is wrong? We have issues.
So who is your favorite artist? I think for me, I have lots of favorites. But what really draws me to an artist is, I'm talking music right now, lyrics. I really pay attention to lyrics. Like, they can be so moving and poetic and stirring, and there's sometimes meaning behind the lyrics that isn't initially obvious. So favorite artist.
That. Do you have one though? Do you have a artist, or just in general you like meaningful lyrics?
I I don't know if I have a favorite. I just most recently went to Imagine Dragons for their Loom tour, and I really like. I can't think of a song of theirs that I don't find meaning and purpose behind. I really like that.
Yeah,
You know
they're
who else
good.
I really like? I really like Lenny Kravitz. Lenny's so good.
He's fine. Sorry. Am I allowed to say that?
Yes, because that's the question next. Who your celebrity crush is.
Oh, good. We can be
Oh.
thinking about their celebrity crush.
Okay.
I'll say all
so-
of mine super briefly. I am loving the Staves right now. I am also big on lyrics. It's hard for me to listen to music that doesn't have good lyrics, and I like them weird too. I like to listen to a song 100 times and get something different out of it. I also love Sufjan Stevens for that reason. And my celebrity crush that I get made fun of for all the time is Gene Wilder, specifically in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And there is something wrong with me probably, but moving on, Emmy.
What do you call someone that's like, what did the teens say now? Like basic. This is so basic. And I don't think anyone has ever said this and probably never will. But when I was a teenager, I think Matchbox 20 was just my jam. And I think I still go to the gym and listen to Matchbox 20 because that's what I worked out to as a teenager. So I think that's just still in me.
I think that's basic. He's a good lyricist
it's kind
too.
of basic.
I really like.
Okay.
They got some bangers,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But also this is my grandma in me, not my grandma, but the grandma in me. Have you guys ever seen or heard Somewhere in Time?
Yes, with Christopher Reeves. And
Yes.
I think, is it Annie McDowell?
I don't know who she is. I
But
was
it takes
too
place
young.
in Michigan.
Oh, yes. My
Mackinac
friend,
Island. Yeah.
I'm actually obsessed with it. And my friend the other day was like, do you know I am too? And there's a thing in Michigan that they do a reenactment or
Yeah.
something. So we're going to go someday.
Let's
But
go.
I don't even remember the movie, but I love the music. As a teenager, I remember sitting on a plane and the Somewhere in Times theme music came on. Or not came on, but I had it in my jukebox, or what is it called? No. my Walkman.
I like jukebox. Now you are a grandma. That's so good.
My Walkman.
I love it so much.
I love that you're using the word
The
Walkman.
whole plane ride, and I wrote. It just inspired me. So I still, when I need to calm myself, I listen to that. And then Benson Boone right now, I'm obsessed with at the moment.
I love Benson Boone.
love
Oh my
Benson
gosh.
Boone.
Yes. Okay,
His
so I
lyrics
think
are
my
great.
celebrity crush, for a long time it was Ryan Reynolds, and it still is to an extent, but I think it's more Simon Baker from The Mentalist. I really like. Okay, do you do still
Both.
carbonated water or diet soda? And then the last one after that is their furthest place that you've traveled. For me, I tend to do a combination of still and regular water. I like the flavor packets that have the energy in it.
I like the electrolytes. That's
Yeah,
my
that's
favorite.
good
It's
too.
just water with
As long as
electrolytes.
it has caffeine, then I'm good.
Okay, yeah. I can't do too much caffeine, I'm finding. It's just too much for me.
Very into coffee.
I'm trying to drink a little more green tea. That's actually very, very good for you. I'm trying to.
I've heard that.
Yes.
The furthest place I've traveled, I really don't know. We've done quite a bit of traveling. I've been as far as New Zealand, Auckland. We've also been to Moscow and St. Petersburg.
Wow.
So between one of those two, opposite.
Wow.
What about you?
Go ahead, Em.
I love France. It's my heart is in France, but I love Europe in general. We've traveled a little bit around Europe and Ireland and Amsterdam and London. They're all incredible, but I just want to keep going. Ever since I was a little girl, I was I'm going to travel the world. Just wait. Just you wait.
Yeah.
The whole world.
I'm so jealous you went to New Zealand. That's on my bucket list.
Yeah,
But for
me
me,
too.
my favorite was Amsterdam so far. I could see myself living in Amsterdam on a bicycle every day.
I knew you were going to say that.
She
My
knows
husband
me
served
best.
there. That's what took us there. So
cool.
this
That's
has
so cool.
been so fantastic. I'll drop your Instagram handles in the show notes and any other
Yeah, same.
ways you want to have folks be able to contact you.
I do want to mention we have an event coming up November 2nd at
Okay.
the Compass Gallery in Provo.
Uh-huh.
And we have Patrick Mason speaking at that, along with 4 other interfaith people. Mesa Kergay is a Muslim woman. And you mentioned Community of Christ. Brittany Mangelson, the pastor there, is speaking. And then we have an interfaith couple. He's Hindu and she's LDS. And then they're doing a Q&A panel. So it'll be super fun for people to be able to ask questions and stuff. So all that info will be on our Instagram.
I love that. I wish I were local. I got to see the Compass Gallery when I was there recently in Provo.
Isn't it so beautiful?
It is. The apologies section, it just brought me to tears. Yeah.
Yes. So cool. We love it.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. They've done a great job.
Totally.
Well, this has been so much fun.
Thank you.
Seriously, we could talk all day.
This went so well. Sometimes you just connect with people too.
Totally.
You were amazing. So
were you guys.
Thank you.
Brene Brown said, living into our values means that we do more than profess our values. We practice them. We walk our talk. We are clear about what we believe and hold important, and we take care that our intentions, words, thoughts, and behaviors align with those beliefs, end quote. Identifying your core values is like thinking ahead of time. It reduces decision fatigue. It becomes your North Star, guiding you as you navigate new decisions or decisions you've come to realize that perhaps you didn't get to choose in the first place. Click the link in the show notes for my Determine Your Values guide. Take the first steps to living a values-driven and aligned life. Identify what matters most to you. Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast is a proud member of the Dialogue Podcast Network, which is part of the Dialogue Journal found at dialoguejournal.com. Founder Eugene England was a Mormon writer, teacher, and scholar who wrote, "My faith encourages my curiosity and awe. It thrusts me out into relationship with all creation and encourages me to enter into dialogue. My hope is that this podcast is an extension of that vision." Hopeful Spaces is a Dallas Hope Charities component of Hopeful Discussions, sponsored by Mercedes-Benz Financial Services USA. It's a free monthly parent, ally, or caregiver support group facilitated by Megan Skidmore Coaching. Email chc@dallashopecharities.org for more info. Visit meganskidmorecoaching.com to find this podcast and additional free resources, including the link for a complimentary coaching session. Follow me on Facebook or Instagram for more, or to send me a DM. Help the podcast grow. Please follow, review, and share with a friend.